Let's try this again. Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to the Council Candidates City Council Candidates Forum, and it is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Palo Alto, and I'm the president of the league. My name is Ellen Forbes. I want to thank you for coming out to hear from the people who will help lead our city for the next 4 years, as well as from their challengers. The League is a nonpartisan political organization whose mission is to engage citizens in active and informed participation in government. Not just active and not just informed, but both. The League does not support or endorse candidates or parties. The League also studies issues, takes positions based on those studies, and advocates for those positions. This forum, funded by the League Education Fund through contributions from members and community donors, is devoted entirely to our voter service activity. We are most appreciative for the participation of our many co-sponsors. In alphabetical order, they are the AAUW of Palo Alto, Avenidas, Mid-Peninsula Community Media Center, Palo Alto Chamber of Commerce, Palo Alto Council of PTAs, and the Palo Alto Weekly and Palo Alto Online. For more information on the elections, we recommend that you visit smartvoter.org. That's smartvoter.org. Or the League website at LWVPaloAlto.org. Please pick up a copy of the Voter's Guide in the back of the room, as well as the current Facts for Voters. The facts, of course, will be updated after this election, but there is still, in this edition, a lot of very useful information. I have one announcement that there is a dark gray Volvo wagon whose keys were still in the car as of several minutes ago. So if that sounds familiar, you might want to look. It was parked right outside the door. The candidates' campaign materials are on the tables outside the room. Please stay after the forum and meet and talk with the candidates personally. And now I'm pleased to turn the microphone over to our moderator for tonight's forum, Eleanor Yick of the Southwest Santa Clara Valley League of Women Voters. And Eleanor, I want to thank you for coming all this way from the south to help us out tonight. So, welcome.
Thank you, Ellen. I accepted doing this tonight because it was a challenge. 12 candidates for 5 seats. This is a challenge to handle it well throughout the evening, so I hope I do a good job. This forum provides the opportunity to hear from the 12 candidates who are running for 5 seats on the Palo Alto City Council. They are seated in the order that they chose at the beginning of the forum. Seated in number 1, and if you just raise your hand, we have Ms. Kuo. Number 2, Mr. Johnston. Number 3, Mr. Douglas. Number 4, Mr. Dubois. Number 5, Mr. Wolbach. Number 6, Ms. Holman. Number 7, Mr. Reddy. And number 8, Mr. Scharf. Number 9, Mr. Frederick. Number 10, Ms. Shepard. Number 11, Mr. Weiss. And number 12, Mr. Filseth. Thank you. Before we begin, I would like to go over the format of our session. We are scheduled to be finished by 9:30. And to help keep us on a track, we have our timekeeper, Larry Lovercheck, right here in the front. Raise your hand. He will signal candidates. Thank you. He will signal candidates with a yellow sign telling them it's 30 seconds left and a red sign when your time is up. The candidates have all received the ground rules, and there are also ground rules for our audience, so I'm going to review them very quickly. The audience. The questions to the candidates must be written on cards provided by the League at the forum, which will be circulated by volunteers in the audience. Questions will be directed to all candidates. Secondly, we request no audience demonstration, clapping, hissing, during the forum. We ask that you turn off all electronic devices. Anything that puts out light or makes a beep, we would like you to turn that off. And we ask no cameras or photo-making devices may be used during the forum. Now for our candidates, and they have also received these prior to the forum tonight. There will be no substitutes or stand-ins for the candidates. If a candidate is unable to attend the forum, they may arrange for a League member to read an opening statement. We don't have that tonight. Candidate responses should pertain to the question at hand. The moderator may interrupt a candidate if she believes the candidate is straying from the subject. The moderator will enforce time limits. The time signals consist of yellow and red cards. The yellow card is shown to indicate 30 seconds remaining. The red card indicates that the candidate should stop speaking at the end of your sentence, a short sentence. After the moderator says, "Thank you, your time is up," the speaking candidates will stop. Next, candidates will not interrupt each other. Number 5, candidates have brought no props into the room with them. The League has provided each candidate with a paper pad and pen for taking notes. Some of them have notes that they have used for their opening statements and so on. Campaign material may not be displayed within the forum room. The League will provide tables outside the forum room for candidate materials. We will be taking questions throughout the forum. This allows us to cover as wide a range of issues as possible and to be sure that questions are not speeches and are not partial for or against any candidate. Question collectors are positioned around the room with cards and pencils. Where are you? There's one here, a couple in the back there. So if you have a question, raise your hand and they'll come and give you a card and a pencil. Please use the cards provided. We will be giving all candidates the opportunity to answer each of the questions. Our question sorters tonight will review the cards and group them by topic. Helping us are Phyllis Cassell and Susan Usman over here. We will begin our forum with a 2-minute opening statement from each candidate in the order that they selected to begin. And just to inform the candidates, your closing statement will be in the reverse order. Following opening statements, each candidate will have an opportunity to ask one other candidate a question. The time limit for the question is 30 seconds, but the response is a minute, and then the person who asked the question can have 30 seconds for a rebuttal. We will then have questions that we have collected from the audience. Candidates will be called on in varying order for each question. I have a random sheet up here. That's why we needed to have the names and the numbers. And they will have 1 minute to respond. I remind the candidates, you can make shorter answers, and that might help us to get to more questions. We will then have a closing statement from each candidate of up to 2 minutes. Candidates will speak in the reverse order. One final note. In the interest of time, and so that we can keep this a nonpartisan environment, we ask that there be no applause or demonstrations of support or opposition to the candidates or their positions. At the end of the forum, we will thank all of them for coming this evening. So let us begin with our opening statements, and number 1 is Ms. Koo. And I think it would be helpful, particularly for your opening statement, to stand.
Thank you. Good evening. 2 years ago, I would never have imagined myself here. What happened? The Maybell Project that became the Measure D referendum. I started by pushing out better information to my neighbors and became increasingly upset about how their serious and legitimate concerns were not being listened to, and that continued even after the election. My experience as a leader of that effort led me to here. This experience built upon my leadership in the citywide emergency preparedness effort. I learned how to deal with City Hall. I learned to work with other civic organizations. I learned how to recruit and volunteers and keep them active and engaged. I learned about creating the culture needed for an organization of all over 400 people. I am a residential realtor. My clients want to move to Palo Alto, so I'm constantly listening to them about what they see that is good and bad about our city. It also means I am constantly out and about throughout the city throughout the day. Although you may joke about realtors, concerns about conflicts of interest and fiduciary responsibilities have become a reflex for me. With this, it may come as no surprise, my top priority is changing culture at City Hall to one that listens meaningfully to residents throughout the process, starting at the earlier stages. It is a false choice to say the only alternative to a current situation is no growth. I believe we need to manage growth. We can't let growth overwhelm our infrastructure, our city and community services, and our schools. And we certainly can't allow developments that understate the impacts on the community. We need to carefully track cumulative impacts. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnston?
My name is A.C. Johnston, and I want to thank the League for inviting us here tonight, and I want to thank all of you for coming to listen. I grew up in the Midwest, a small town outside of Chicago where my dad was the city attorney and later a state legislator. I went to school for college and law school on the East Coast and spent 4 years in the Navy on a submarine. And then my wife and I realized there was something else. We could move to California. So we moved to San Francisco. I joined a law firm in San Francisco. I'm proud to say that after 40 years, nearly 40 years, I'm still a member of the same firm. That firm in 1985 came and asked me to open an office for the firm in Silicon Valley. I came down, I looked around, I realized we had to be in Palo Alto because Palo Alto then and now is the heart of Silicon Valley. In 1990, my family and I moved down. We bought a house in Old Palo Alto because this is the community where we really felt comfortable and wanted to live and raise our daughter. And I spent a number of years not only building my law practice, but working for legal services organizations in Santa Clara County. My firm came to me after a number of years and asked me to take on a couple of assignments that took us away from Palo Alto. I thought it was going to be one assignment. I thought it was going to be 3 years. Turned out to be 3 assignments and quite a bit longer. But at the end of those assignments, my wife and I looked at each other and said, well, what do we want to do now? We could live anywhere. And we decided to come back to Palo Alto because this is our home. So I'm proud to say we've chosen to live in Palo Alto twice. And we now live downtown. We sold our house. We moved downtown because we wanted to be near University Avenue. We wanted to be able to walk to everywhere. It's a wonderful place to live. The community is everything that we remembered, and we're delighted to be back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next candidate is Mr. Douglas, and would you also introduce yourself when you stand?
My name is Wayne Douglas. Nobody knows who I am or where I come from. So I guess I should say that I'm originally from Vermont, land of the town meeting and so forth, I guess. And I'm part of that overeducated group that we hear so much about who have an opportunity to look down on everybody else. I have a PhD in English from the University of Florida. And to give a kind of a promotion for my campaign literature, I have a new twist on that theme. I'm giving out literature. So if anybody wants some free literature, I'll give you some, if it's something you like. How did I get into politics? God only knows. I'm a big fan of Will Rogers, and Will Rogers was once asked why he didn't run for office, and he said, well, I can't compete with the real comedians, he said. He said, when they make a joke, it's a law. And when they make a law, it's a joke. And I got a good fill of that, observing the council meetings regarding the homeless in this town. And I remember saying to somebody when it was all over with and my side had lost again, I said, this is an organization that is bereft of ideas. And so my idea is maybe we ought to be nice to the homeless, Maybe we should give them a place in this community because they belong here. And that's as simple as that. I don't know what else to say. That's why I'm here. So that makes me a single-issue candidate. So be it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate, Mr. Dubois.
Dubois.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Tom Dubois, and thanks again to the League for hosting. And thank you guys. It's a terrific crowd tonight, and thanks to people watching on TV. I'm sure you could find something more entertaining. I'm Tom Dubois. I'm a resident of Midtown. I'm a dad. I'm a high-tech entrepreneur, and I'm a dog owner. This is a critical election for Palo Alto. We're at a crossroads. Our comprehensive plan, which sets the vision for the city for the next 10 to 15 years, will be completed under this next council. And we face important decisions on the future of what we want for Palo Alto. So that's why I'm running, because I care passionately about the city and I'm concerned about the direction we've been going. I want to see residents' needs and concerns take top priority so that we can enhance our quality of life. So I'm sure we're going to get tons of questions about land use tonight, so I thought I'd quickly talk about some other issues that I care about, and that if I'm elected, I want to work as one of 9 members of council to work collaboratively with my colleagues to move our city forward. So number 1 is Cubberley. I want to dedicate a large portion of my time and energy to getting the city and the school district on the same page and agreeing to a plan for both a community center and a school on the Cubberley site. The second is finances. I want to ensure that the fiscal restraint that we showed during the recession continues now that we're entering into a boom. I'd like to improve our water recycling. We currently dump about 20 million gallons a day into the bay, and that's a precious resource that I think we could be using. For retail protection, we need to protect our ground for retail. I'm interested in fiber to the home. And finally, I'm concerned about openness and trust. And I think every candidate will talk about openness, and we need to take some additional steps, such as balanced staff reports, earlier access to reports, and not creating the appearance of favoritism through exceptions. I think exceptions need to be rare. Trust can be lost in a second, and I want to work hard to restore trust in local city government. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate, Mr. Wolbach.
Hello, my name is Corey Wolbach. I grew up in Palo Alto. I went to Mitchell Park Library as my library when I was growing up. Went to Gunn High School. I hope those in the Pali part of town don't hold that against me. In the 1998 El Nino floods, we were luckier than a lot of our neighbors. The water only came halfway up our driveway and didn't enter our home. I've made life-changing decisions at Foothills Park. These are a few of the reasons why I'm running, to preserve what's great about Palo Alto. In my day job, I work on policy and with the community. I work in the district office of the local state senate office, Jerry Hill. I've had an opportunity to be the liaison to the city of Palo Alto. It's given me a chance to work with the city council, city staff, the local school district, and several of our neighboring communities. And that's opened my eyes to some of the things that the city is doing right, that they might not always get credit for, but also some of the things that need to improve. My approach to all challenges in every organization I've ever been a part of is to play devil's advocate, to seek out adverse opinions, to find common ground, and to work from there. I value a civil, inclusive, and sustainable Palo Alto, and I'm passionate about good governance and good public policy that starts with community input. This is democracy, of course. My policy priorities include balanced planning, adequate transportation, ensuring that city services such as parks and those for the homeless are well-funded and maintained, especially in times of economic downturn when they're most vulnerable to be sacrificed. And lastly, continuing with the theme of collaboration, partnering with Palo Alto Unified and other governmental bodies and moving past Palo Alto's penchant for trying to do everything on its own. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate, Ms. Holman.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming and to the League for putting on this forum. It's much appreciated and a great public service, so thank you very much. From my perspective, this election is more about you than it is about the candidates. This is about you and the kind of town you want to live in It's about you and the kind of town that reflects your values. It's about a town that you can be proud of, and it's about how your voice deserves to be heard and how your voice is considered. These are the things that matter. It's about your voice. It's about open space, traffic, housing. It's about diversity. It's about the future of Palo Alto. These are the things that matter, and that's what this election is about. I bring to this campaign 4.5 years experience on the City Council, 8.5 years experience on the Planning and Transportation Commission, 2 of those years as chair of that body. Prior to that, I served as co-chair of the South of Forest Avenue Working Group, and that's the development where the clinic left just south of downtown. That's proven to be a very popular and successful development. Driven by my values and desire to represent the public, I have opposed projects such as Alma Plaza and 101 Lytton and the JJ&F project, College Terrace Center, because I haven't felt that those projects reach the merit that they really should in satisfying public good. As far as leadership on the council, I've led in such ways as bringing forth initiatives at the council to limit council member conversations with applicants and interested members of the public prior to Architecture Review Board and Planning Commission final recommendations. Wider sidewalks and how buildings better address the street have been also initiatives I brought forward. Wider protection for ground floor retail, expanding that. Business registry creation and dedication of 7.7 acres adjacent to Foothills Park, and also something you'll be hearing about more later this year, which is bringing forward the proposal from the Humane Society to create a new animal shelter. Look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate, Mr. Reddy.
Good evening. You know my name. You pick one of the two. C for a short name or Salem. It's a family name. So I want to take more time talking about what's for you to know me. So I just drove about an hour and a half, about 43 miles from San Ramon. I have an assignment at a company. I just started a couple of weeks ago. I just drove 43 miles from San Ramon for a corporation that's just as good as you can get in the U.S. And it took me an hour and 15, 20 minutes to come here, and I came late. And only in America, you come late and you sit in the middle, you know. So that's the opportunity we have, you know. I think I was an unwanted child, third in the family, a boy. My mom wanted a girl, but I came through, survived all the things that I did. We were a very close-knit family. My father was a farmer. He married my mom at age 5, and he was 8. So all those things overcome, and I one day saw at age 12, 13 some pictures of America, and I said, this is where I wanted to be. So I encouraged all my family, including my brothers and sister. We're all here. We're naturalized American citizens. We love our country, but we love America just as much as we love where we came from. So that's the significance of this elephant. So what we want is basically we want to get back to live in the Palo Alto we love. What do we want? We want this way it is today. Don't mess it up. We want transparency. We don't want no backroom deals. We want to evict the existing city council and get the right people in so we can do that. So if you want no change, no backroom deals, no hanky-panky stuff, no corruption, I'm your candidate. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scharf is our next candidate.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and welcome, everyone. It's great to see all of you here today and support the community we all love so much. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on. It's great, and everyone for joining us tonight. In 1988, I moved to Palo Alto with my fiance, who later became my wife, and we've raised 3 wonderful children here in Palo Alto. My daughter, Laura, works for a local startup locally. My daughter, Emily, who's now at Berkeley. Go Bears. No, I shouldn't say that, but go Bears. And my son, Jason, who's a sophomore in high school. Having raised 3 kids in Palo Alto, I can tell you, I don't think there's a better community to raise kids. It is a fantastic place to live, and I can't imagine a better place. In 2001, I was fortunate enough to be able to move my law practice to California Avenue, and just on Park Boulevard, just off California Avenue. And I'd say California Avenue, I moved it there on purpose because it's charming and funky and fun, and we want to keep it that way. I have served almost 5 years on the City Council and as your mayor in 2013. And for me, there has been no greater honor. What I do on the council is I do a lot of regional work to further Palo Alto's interests. For instance, I serve on the Bay Area Conservation and Development Commission, where I protect the Bay, restore wetlands, and prepare and protect us for the effects of climate change. I am the Secretary and Treasurer of the Santa Clara County's Cities Association, and I also serve on the Caltrain Advisory Board, where I closely work with Caltrain staff to ensure that we have the improvements that Caltrain needs. I am also the utilities guy on council and your Northern California Power Commissioner. And one of the first things I did when I got on NCPA is I renegotiated our governance documents, making them more transparent, and in so doing so, saved Palo Alto ratepayers approximately $250,000 a year in electricity costs, and that's ongoing structural change every year. I'm running for re-election because I love this community and would like the opportunity to finish some of the important work I have started during my first term to protect and enhance the quality of life for every Palo Alton. I'm proud of our record and feel I've earned your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Frederick?
I'm John Frederick, and I think I'm the one that left my keys in the car. But I'm trapped up here, so maybe if the person that knows where that car is takes them out, I won't be in violation of the penal code or something like that. This is my 5th election, and, Palo Alto's rather data-driven, so just to get a little data here, I should ask, how many people voted for me in 1975?
Oh, wow.
How many people voted for me in 1977? How many people voted for me in 1981? How many people voted for me in 2003? Okay, well, I get the point. I need more votes. And that's why I'm talking to you tonight. And I believe that the best way to approach the subject is to look into the qualities and characteristics of the candidates and then look at the issues. You're a very savvy crowd. You're very aware of the issues. So, as Karen said, this is about the voters, but it's also about the candidates. You have to pick somebody who is simpatico with what you want to see happen in the next few years. I noticed when I look at my campaign literature from a decade ago, it had things like a moratorium on PC zoning and fixing things in the Charleston corridor and stuff like that. So I think part of the issue here is that the ball is in your court. It's up to you to decide what you want and vote accordingly.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Ms. Shepard.
Thank you. And thank you also for bringing this forum for us tonight here. It's wonderful to be here with you tonight. I moved here in 1984 to raise our 4 children, and my husband has his law practice downtown Palo Alto. Today, my oldest daughter is a teacher at Palo Alto High School, and my daughter-in-law is an aide up at Nixon Elementary School. It's been really a wonderful experience living here in Palo Alto now half of my life. So I think you need to understand, back in 2009, when I looked at what was possibly going to be coming through Palo Alto, which was a high-speed rail of freeway going on a 50-foot viaduct all the way through town, and some of my neighbors being served notices of eminent domain, I was shocked that this would happen in Palo Alto. So I did what I've done before when I was in the school community working on fundraising. I reached out, convened a meeting of my neighbors to try to get to the bottom of this. And we learned that rail could be done right. And people got organized in my living room, and we launched a program to try to stop the high-speed rail. But in the meantime, we found a big friend with Caltrain. And Caltrain, being our backbone of our commute corridor up and down the peninsula, serves so many needs in Palo Alto right now. But also back in 2009, we were really looking at massive urbanization by what they wanted us to do with the superstation downtown, possibly the loss of the Stanford Hospital because the agreement to try to get it built was stalled out, and stress with teens. So today, all of that has been changed, and I've worked hard these last 4 years to have that experience be changed. And moving forward, this year as mayor, I have put out there the community conversation called Our Palo Alto, so we can hear and listen to each community member, wherever you are, to share your ideas for the future.
Thank you. Our next candidate, Mr. Weiss.
My name is Mark Weiss. I'm running for City Council, and as I was listening to my fellow candidates talk, I was looking at the room, and I think I counted about 30 of you I know by name and face out of 120. I think Carolyn Tucker I've known the longest since her son Phil was my classmate at Fremont Hills Terman and Gunn. In fact, in 1982, she handed me my diploma. There's a photo of that as a school board member. I think the people I met most recently, I don't know them well, but Cheryl Lillian-Stein or Lillienthal, and John Kelly, the former Williams basketball star, and Penny Elson, who's working on this event. And my point is that as I've gotten to know the candidates here this year, and this is my third time running. I ran in 2009 and 2012, and Mayor Nancy and I were reminiscing that we sat side by side at the first panel like this that we both were in 2009 at JLS, or what I call Wilbur. I have developed a rapport with all 9 of the recent council members and some of the ex-council members and with this group. And my point is we're all in this together. Yes, I want to be seated as one of your 5 votes, but as I've done for 5 years, I will continue to be engaged in trying to impact policy. And I applaud you guys for being here, guys and gals, for being here tonight. You are impacting policy. I also wanted to say Etz Chaim. I've been here a couple times. They have a 5th Friday Shabbat. They did a Bob Dylan service that I went to. I remember as the YWCA, there were some rock concerts for teens that I attended because I was producing events at Cubberley for a number of years in the 90s. We've come to an interesting moment where the establishment wants rapid change, and people like me who's been here since 74, I went to Gunn, I went to Dartmouth, we want to enforce the status quo, enforce the comprehensive plan, and we're considered insurgents or worse. It's a very strange moment.
Thank you. And our last candidate for an opening statement, Mr. Filseth.
Good evening. So first of all, I want to thank the League as well. I want to thank everybody for coming. Thank you, folks. By the way, people have been telling me for 30 years they can't hear me talk. So if you can't hear me in the back, throw something or shout or something like that. Thank you very much for caring about this stuff. I think that's really, really important. So thanks for doing this. So my name's Eric Filseth, and I was actually born in Wisconsin and grew up mostly in Canada, as it happens, a little bit in Germany. And I came out to go to school, and that's why I'm here, and I met my wife. I am a tech guy. I worked in the semiconductor industry for 27 years, including 16 at Cadence Design Systems, where I was a corporate vice president, and 5 years at Ciranova, where I was CEO as a software company that was sold in 2012. And my wife and I have lived in Palo Alto's downtown north neighborhood for 23 years now. Our 2 boys are nearly grown up. Our older one just graduated from Pali this June, and our younger one is a junior there. And over the years that we lived there, we noticed that our neighborhood began to change, and change is everywhere, but change in some ways that weren't good, right? And especially related to traffic and parking and things like that. And so I got involved with community activities. I worked on the downtown parking project and the model. I got involved with the Maybell Group, and I was involved in the Measure D campaign. I am a member of Palo Altans for Sensible Zoning, and this is really why I'm running. I'm concerned that a disconnect has opened up between City Hall and what residents want for this community, particularly in terms of traffic, congestion, parking, stretched city infrastructure support, school crowding. My son, who just graduated, had one class with 48 kids in it in Pali. That's a big class for a high school. And my experience with Palo Alto was as a moderate density family town with great services and great schools. And I think that's what it should be. And I think we need to get realigned behind that vision and carry that forward in the future, because we're going to make some serious decisions here. Thank you.
Thank you.